We start upon Chapter 7, the Book of Kubilai Khan. Kubilai was still on the banks of the Yangtze when the report of Mangu's sudden death had spread through China in that hot midsummer of 1259 of the Common Era. He had with him the sage Yao Chao and the lady Jamui of the chestnut horse tribe and the famous left wing of the army. Not without reason was Kubilai, the second brother, called Sechin the Wise by his Mongols. He listened to many rumors, saying little himself. It seemed to him ominous that men should whisper of happenings that might or might not be true. His Chinese advisers foretold that the Mongol dominion would be launched in a new direction and that a change would take place on the continent. Messengers came from Karakorum to ask the recall of portions of his army, but they could give no reasons for recalling them. Kubilai refused to part with any of his banners while he waited to learn what was behind the silence and the whispering. Mangu's eldest wife wrote him that the Khakan was gravely sick. She wrote again, saying that the favorite princess Kutuktai talked much with Alamdar and the officers of Mangu's detachments. Kubilai waited, although more than his brother Hulagu or his cousin Birkai. He had the ability to make decisions quickly. He merely wanted to know for a certainty whether Mangu lived. When he first heard the evil tidings of the sickness of Mangu Khan, Rashid explains, he said, "I shall pay no heed to false rumors." When he knew this thing for a certainty, he came away from the army and went into mourning, and he was then all alone in the land of southern China, because Hulagu Khan was over in the west, in the land of Iran. So the way was far between them and the throne place, the Mongol homeland where Buka sat. Buka, the little man, youngest of the three surviving brothers, was the then keeper of the hearth at Karakorum. He had in his keeping the ancestral grazing lands and the bronze leaves of the golden book upon which the commands of Genghis Khan had been inscribed. When he heard of what had befallen his brother, Rashid adds, Buka fixed his eyes on the throne and the kingship. The chieftains and princes of the blood egged him on to do this, so that he revolted against Kubilai Khan. So Rashid says, but it was in reality Kubilai who revolted against his younger brother, and perhaps in neither case was personal ambition the cause of the quarrel. By the code of Genghis Khan, the death of Mangu should have been followed by a gathering of the Kuriltai of all the bloodkin, all the members of the Golden Family, but Bir Kai was not expected to come, and Hulagu did not, while the formidable Kaidu remained apart in his pastures of mid-Asia. Issue of succession would then in any case have been decided by Kubilai and Buka, both grandsons of Genghis Khan and sons of the house of Tului, and inevitably they were thrown into conflict by the influences that surrounded them. Around Buka were gathered the elder Mongols, people of non-Abrahamic faith, the true dwellers in felt tents. Kubilai had with him the only officers of his own powerful field army and bureaus of the Chinese mandarins. The ghost of Yeliu Chautsai haunted his Ordu. More than that, a change had been taking place in the Mongols themselves during this last generation. Those who continued to dwell in the steppes had built themselves small mud palaces. There they had enjoyed the spoils of vast conquest. While they remained frontiersmen, life had softened for them. They no longer had to endure hunger and drought in the steppes. At the same time, the Mongols with Kubilai had occupied Middle China for most of that generation. They had been active in administration, and their desire was to increase their own well-being. After experiencing the splendors of Yenking, they had little desire to return to the yurts of Karakorum. Instead of being softened by their contact with so-called civilization, they looked upon themselves as victorious and hard. They carried on the work while the steppe dwellers reaped the loot of it, their pride increased proportionately. Were they not carrying out the command of Genghis Khan while the inmates of the Gobi were growing fat with borrowed victories? The pride of the former nomads was perhaps their most vital impulse. The Noyons and Kubilai's command did not realize how they were changing, because in their own estimation they were as they had been, frontiersmen and conquerors living in the saddle.